This is Katrin with Disability Rights New York. Welcome to our podcast, Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned. We are here to bring you information on the most relevant topics regarding disability rights and advocacy. It is the National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Today, we welcome Remla Parthasarthy, attorney with Empire State Justice Center and project leader of the Crime Victims Legal Network, joined with Tim Baran, technology innovation manager at Pro Bono Net, to discuss the Crime Victims Legal Network, its new platform, Advocate Gateway, and the resources it provides to legally assist crime victims in New York State. Remla, Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. We have an awful lot going on in New York State regarding the coronavirus and all the things that go along with that. We're also going to be seeing this new gateway started in New York State. And so, Remla, could you start by telling us about the mission of the Crime Victims Legal Network and why it was created?
Hi, Katrin. Thank you for having us here. The Crime Victims Legal Network is a partnership of organizations whose mission is to connect victims of crime with civil legal information, resources, and assistance. And we're doing that primarily through the development of a website, New York Crime Victims Legal Help, or you could call it crimevictimshelpny.org. So the Crime Victims Legal Network was created primarily because a lot of people don't realize that crime victims have civil legal needs. I mean, most people, when they think of a crime victim or the crime victim's legal needs, they immediately think police and prosecution, the criminal justice response. But the reality is that as a result of being a victim of crime, many individuals have just numerous problems that are actually civil legal in nature. I could give you an example. A friend of mine, and luckily she's not a victim of crime, but she's a chef in a small restaurant. And I use her example all the time. She's an hourly employee. She doesn't get paid sick leave or doesn't have insurance benefits. So what happens if she were to get assaulted or mugged and sustains physical injuries? So think of all those issues that she could encounter. There's medical expenses. She could be without insurance, and that might be really staggering. She might not be able to work, which in turn affects her ability to pay rent, pay for her utilities. And if she is in a situation where she has to pay for child support or spousal maintenance, that could be impacted as well. So from a crime, there arises so many civil legal needs that cannot be addressed by the criminal justice system, even if they caught the criminal, even if that person was prosecuted. And I think that's why we created the Crime Victims Legal Network and its website. It was created to make people aware that there's information, resources, and people who could actually help crime victims with those specific civil legal needs.
And so, Remla, if you could clarify, one of the words that I think a lot of our audience might be familiar with is restitution. So when we're talking about restitution, is that something that encompasses those civil legal needs?
So restitution is actually a part of the criminal justice process. It's what the defendant who is charged with the crime might be able to pay back the crime victims for the wrong that he did. So that would be part of the criminal justice system.
Right. So I think it's important that we are able to make that distinction. There's so much information that is out there for people to gather, whether it's through television or news or the internet. I think it's important to make the distinction between both of those separate systems. And Remla, what services and resources does the Crime Victims Legal Network offer, and how do they help the advocates support crime victims?
So it's important to clarify that right now, the Crime Victims Legal Network itself doesn't directly provide services or representation to crime victims. What we do is we offer the website that connects crime victims to those resources. So all the resources and the services that we have can be accessed through New York Crime Victims Legal Help or crimevictimshelpny.org. If I may, we've got 3 great resources available on our website. The first primarily is the legal help directory, which is, I think, the key thing that people go to when they go to our website. And it's really easy to use. You select your county that you live in, you select the legal issue, and it provides you a list of services or organizations that can help you. So if you live in Albany and you have an eviction matter and you don't know where to go to, you just click in Albany eviction and you get organizations that can assist you. Another area of our site has information for, it's a find legal forms. So it connects you to PDFs of legal forms or connects you to online programs that could help you compile legal documents for certain legal proceedings. And then the main area of the site that has the most information is our Know Your Rights section. It contains all the information on the top civil legal needs identified by victims of crime. So if you are a victim of crime and you have needs regarding housing, eviction, family law, immigration, employment, that's where you could go to get that information and then related resources.
So it sounds like there's a lot of different areas that the data can break down. So depending on what it is that you're looking for, the website will give you information on a lot of different topics. Can you talk to us about some of the most common crime victim cases that advocates address through the website?
Sure. So before we developed the website, we actually did a comprehensive needs assessment. And one of the things we found out is there are the top 5 needs for victims of crime have to do with money and finance, family law, housing, employment, and immigration issues. So the bulk of the information in our Know Your Rights section has to do with those 5 areas. And that's where I think a lot of the cases comes from those 5 areas.
And I would have to imagine this is obviously no small subject matter or topic. You have to have some great partners out there working with you. Talk to us about who some of those partnering organizations are and how they assist the Crime Victims Legal Network's mission.
We are so fortunate to have just so many partners. Let me start with our founding partners. So the New York State Office of Victim Services, they're our funders. We have Pro Bono Net. That's our technology partner. They built this website on their platform. The Center for Human Services Research at the University of Albany is another partner. They're a research partner. The comprehensive needs assessment that I talked about, any evaluation, they do it for us. So everything that we create, we know it's actually built for the people that it was developed to help. And then I'm from Empire Justice Center. We're the lead partner agency. We provide the legal services and the legal aspect of it. On top of that, we have a wonderful advisory committee who are, they're from organizations across the state, and they have been guiding us every step of the way. And then the other range of partners that we have are called our referral partners. So any organization that receives New York State Office of Victims and Services funding to represent and help crime victims who are directed through this website, they're our referral partners. And right now we have 61 organizations across the state who receive kind of funding and are partners of ours. So if you ever use the Legal Help Directory, and if you see an organization that has a little check mark with a try this first, that's a sign that they're a referral partner and they could really help you.
That's a great way to identify them. And so as part of the website, you started to develop the Victims Advocate Gateway. Talk to us about how this idea started and when the development for it really started to come to fruition and what the process has been.
So the Advocate Gateway has been something that we wanted to do for years now, but we've only really seriously been working on it since maybe September or October of 2019. But we've envisioned it for a long time. It's a special area on our site that can only be accessed by crime victims' attorneys and advocates. And we're planning to build it out and create a platform where we hope it's going to be this place where advocates can talk to each other, learn from each other, so that we can develop this community of practice regarding crime victims and crime victims' rights enforcement.
And so, Tim, talk to us about who can access this Advocate Gateway and who can become a member. What's the criteria?
So, Catherine, in this day and age of staying at home due to COVID-19, and it's really affected the legal aid community as much as it has any other community, because the legal aid community and advocates are used to being out in the field and engaging not just with clients, but with each other. So I feel like the Advocate Gateway is a really timely environment for advocates and attorneys to communicate with each other. And what is the Advocate Gateway, right? Right now, I should just point out that it's in beta, which means that right now we are only approving or inviting members who are not just referral partners, but referral partners who are funded by the grant. So right now we have a couple of dozen in there. And We're looking at this in several phases. So after that initial phase, then we will jump to include all of the referral partners. And Remla just mentioned the legal help directory. So in that directory, when you get a list of legal aid organizations that can assist you or community-based organizations out there, these are organizations that are in the database, right? They're closing out about 100 or so right now. So the members of those organizations are going to be included in the second rollout of the beta phase. So right now, we have an array of tools on the site for advocates to use. And these tools came about from a lot of back and forth, a lot of user testing, a lot of user feedback, not just from our referral partners and our advisory committee, but from the entire community out there. And they include a library of resources advocates contribute to. These can be case law updates, forms, I think some training materials. There's also a calendar of events and a jobs board that's been asked for. And it's from my experience, it's one of the more popular pages on any advocate site, as you could well imagine. And it's even more important now that folks are looking for jobs. But one of the things that I think is really going to be great is a listserv that we are sort of building out that functions a little bit, not just as a listserv. And as you know, listservs, you fly emails back and forth, but also if advocates log into the site, it functions as a little bit of a, like a forum, right? So they have the opportunity to engage right in there. So I'm not sure if you've experienced this or if anyone else has experienced this out there. After COVID-19 and after all of this working from home started up, it was like, if you were members of a listserv, you had emails flying left, right, and center. But I think in a topical specific area like the Advocate Gateway for Crime Victims, this could be really useful.
I think it's a really interesting time to be doing beta testing of anything when we think about normalcy in what we would be looking for when, say, the idea of what the gateway would be started. There's no way that you could have anticipated COVID-19 and the entire state being mostly working remotely. So talk to us a little bit about how this is going to affect your data. And do you think that this experience of testing and beta at this time, do you think it's going to give you some insight in areas that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to pinpoint? I mean, really, this gateway could be acting as a lifeline for some crime victims who are out there who can't see their advocate or their attorney because we're really confined to our homes. Just a really interesting time for all of this to be happening.
For sure. It's definitely made us reprioritize some of the developments that we're going to be undertaking not just over the next couple of years, but right now, including what are we developing on the site. Just this morning, we had a meeting with all of the partners around what can we put on the site to alert folks that even though they may search for legal help and they come up with a list of organizations, they hear right on the news and they read in the newspaper that you can't go out and hang out with each other. You can't go and access services and be with each other. You can't see an advisor face to face, right? So what we want to convey to everyone that comes to the site is that, yes, you can have access to these services. They will just be remote services. They will be via the phone. They will be via chat. On the website, there is a live chat feature. And what we're doing is there's a pretty good sort of symbiotic relationship between the website and Law Help New York, which has been around for like decades. And in terms of pulling referral sources, but also in exchanging COVID-19 updates and what that means. And we are making sure that everyone that comes to the site sees that we are not just still active, but they can get help. And not just get help on the issues that they see there, but here are the top issues that we see, not just from live help, but maybe from analytics, right? That people are accessing the site and looking at. And we are able to speak to those on the website itself.
And so walk us through an example of how the Advocate Gateway will operate. How will the advocates use the portal to assist crime victims? If you can give us an example of a possible advocate using the portal.
That's a good question. One of the ways that we've gathered information over the last couple of years is not just from formal user feedback, but when we go out to conferences, and Remla and I, can I just say, it's a joy to have Remla and Empire Justice as a partner. It's just been an amazing experience. And that makes all the difference in the world when we develop these tools. So some of the feedback that we've gotten when we are out in the field, our conferences and otherwise, an advocate out in the field, they've experienced an issue and they don't know exactly how to address it. They have some idea, but it seems new. This is what we want advocates on the website to then go and ask a question and be able to communicate with each other, because someone else may have gone through this and received an answer. Another one is they may actually know what to do, but where's the resource? Like, where's that form? Where do they access these resources in order to make this happen? We want to be able to, in the Advocate Gateway, to provide a very intuitive and seamless functionality in there so that they access those resources.
And so we're talking about how the gateway is in beta phase right now. Talk to us about how the website will broaden its content, not only to serve a wide range of crime victims, but how is it that we'll be able to look at the data as it relates to crime victims who are people with disabilities and other minority groups?
Yeah. So Remla mentioned Susan. Susan is one of our partners on this show, one of our original partners on this project. She is with the SUNY Albany Center for Human Research, and they've just done, Remla mentioned, the needs assessment, and they've just done a tremendous job a few years ago at the beginning of this project in identifying who those the segments of the population that we can serve. And we had to prioritize in the first phase, first couple of phases of this project, who we speak to. Now we're going back. We have a development coming up in the next couple of years. We're going back and looking at that and probably putting out another needs assessment and certainly surveys in the community and identifying other segments of the population that needs to be spoken to, like the LGBT community, like folks with accessibility issues, right? And we actually have a list that we're going back to and right now in the process of prioritizing and then identifying how can we create content, not just substantive content to speak to these groups, but also when they search for legal help, how do these legal organizations identify which segments of the population they serve? So we're looking at all of these elements in the development, and not just the gateway, but the entire website.
That's great. And that leads me to my next question. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the steps that are being taken to ensure that the website also meets accessibility standards. How are you approaching that?
You know, it's interesting. At the start of this project, we did have some constraints just based on the funder and looking at color schemes and everything had to go through approval processes, which was wonderful because sometimes you do need some constraints in order to get something done, or else this goes haywire a little bit. But the underlying Pro Bono Net platform adheres to a Section 508 requirements. And a couple of years ago, we worked with one of our partners in another state on an audit of the platform using a site called Olmstead Rights. And on the site, we're using a custom design tailored specifically to the CVLN network identity. And we have not done as full an accessibility audit on that yet. But in the pilot phase, we worked to address this by focusing on a few core aspects. For instance, like color contrast, content accessibility, certainly functionality accessibility. And in this current phase, now that a network expansion is even firmer, we'll be doing a fuller accessibility review. I mean, some of the things that I personally bringing up, things like design element, a finer look at color contrast, right? Reviewing even the content management systems. So, because we know that a framework for one content management system might be more accessibility friendly than another. We're looking obviously at all tags for images. We're looking at designing for like screen reader compatibility, all of these different elements that we go through in an audit So I'm excited about that. We're also looking at language access, right? Right now, we've identified maybe 5 or 6 core languages in New York State, some of the top most frequently used. And then we're going to be looking at resources on the website, including information about access rights on the website itself, how we can translate that, not just using Google Translate, but some human translation for that. So a lot on the plate.
Well, that's great. And we look forward to being able to take a look at it and utilize it. And on that note, will there be a period of time where people will be able to test this gateway for its accessibility?
Absolutely. We not only test the gateway internally, but we do for accessibility and for everything else, right? We have some quality assurance engineers that have been trained in what to look for and how to go through an audit of the website for accessibility. And then we do hope to open it to the public. Well, not the public, but we'll need to, because this is limited to just the advocates and attorneys, but we are going to open it to them for specific feedback on accessibility compliance.
That's great. We definitely would love to hear the feedback that you receive from them. Now, Remla, if our audience has questions about the Crime Victims Legal Network or the Advocate Gateway, what resources are available to them and who can they contact?
So if your audience has any questions, I really would direct them back to the website, New York Crime Victims Legal Help, because we have through there, they could get to our Contact Us page. And any questions, use that Contact Us page and I'll directly get those.
That's great information. And we will list that website at the end of the podcast. Remla, Tim, thank you so much for your time today. It's really been wonderful speaking with you, and we look forward to hearing about the future developments of Advocate Gateway.
Thank you very much.
It's been our pleasure.
Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned has been brought to you by Disability Rights New York, your source for disability rights and advocacy. If you enjoyed our program, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this post. If there is a subject you would like us to discuss, please email podcast@drny.org or comment below. Tune in next Wednesday, where we'll bring you more information on disability rights in the state of New York. The closed caption version of this podcast is available on our YouTube channel. To listen to more Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned, follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.